This is the Parenting Show on Global News Radio 640 Toronto. I invited my son Jackson into the studio, and he actually said yes.
What a surprise.
No, it is a surprise, really, because
No,
I didn't think you'd do this. When I asked you, I fully expected you to say no.
I did too. I expected myself to say no.
But you didn't. You said, yeah, sure, that might be fun.
I might give it a try. Yeah.
Well, you're giving it a try right now. You're 19 years young. And the reason why I wanted to have you into the show is because it is the parenting show. I am your mom. And
That is fact, yeah.
And I thought that you could give advice to some of the parents out there who have kids. They're growing up in public school. They're going to be teenagers soon. And they need advice. And I think you are the perfect person to give them the advice because you have been through it all.
I have been through quite a lot myself. As a teenager.
You have. But this is going to be great. So thanks for coming in. And it really does mean a lot to me. And now that you are 19, I feel like we're getting along a little bit better, don't you?
Yeah. Well, we're connecting on that age range, like I'm getting older. We have similar interests. Not a little kid anymore, even though to you I might be.
You will always be my baby.
I know.
But I felt like there was a few years there where I felt sort of like you didn't really want to talk to me.
Yeah. No, that's just the teenage thing. You know what I mean?
It is, isn't it?
I think I'm growing out of that. I think that's what it is.
I think
I'm saying yes to a lot more things.
You are becoming an adult.
Oh, God.
And someday, not too soon, I'm not ready to become a grandmother, but you will have children of your own. And then I think that you will appreciate your father and me a little bit more and everything we've done for you.
I think so too, but you're gonna have to wait a while. So
I hope so. Though it's okay. I'm willing to wait, but not too long. Not 20 years from now.
Oh, we'll have to see how life plays out.
Okay. Well, I wrote down a few things that I'd like to talk about. So I have a huge list. We're probably not going to get to everything. So I am calling this advice from my son, and you do. You know what? You have a lot of opinions on this, and because you've been through this, I really think that you're going to give some great advice to parents.
I'm ready.
Are you ready?
Excited.
Okay,
yeah,
so
we'll see what's up.
To start things off, since I'm looking at my cell phone right now, we're going to talk about cell phones.
Wow. What a topic.
Okay, so first of all, how old do you think kids should be before they get a cell phone from mom and dad?
Well, when I was young, I got one when I was 12.
Yes, you did, when you were in grade 6.
Quite early. A couple other people had them, starting to get into it. But I think it's important, because you need to contact someone, of course, obviously, but cell phones nowadays, they're not just for contacting people, like over phone, over text. It's about everything else you can do with them. And I feel like those have problems with it when it comes to kids. You know what I mean?
I do too. So it needs to be regulated. 12 years old I thought was a good age because you were walking home by yourself for the very first time. And it was really a safety issue with me. When I was 12 years old, we did not have cell phones. It was freeing because my parents never knew where I was. But that was just the way of the world. And now we want to keep in contact with our kids all the time. So yes, there is kind of a cell phone ban right now in Ontario where students can't use their cell phones unless it's regulated by a teacher, unless it has to do with schoolwork.
Yeah.
So that wasn't the case when you were going through school. So how do you feel about this rule?
Well, I noticed a lot of phones in school. I still do. I go to college and I notice phones everywhere and teachers don't like it. And I feel like it's just getting worse and worse because people are getting more and more phones. And they can and people are texting each other in class. They're 2 feet away and they can't talk because they're in class, but they have other means of doing that.
Yeah, so when I was young, we actually used to take a little piece of paper and a pencil and write a note and pass it over. So maybe this is just the new way of doing that and communicating with other students in the class. Because you got your phone now. It's paperless.
Well, I used to do that in grade 4. I actually used to, with my deskmate, trade papers in class. But as soon as I got a phone, that stopped, instantly.
Yeah.
Because what's the point, Why have any evidence?
So I do remember getting a phone call home from one of the teachers saying that they believe that you were watching movies in class. Maybe?
Very much so. Math class. I was known for watching just straight up movies, videos. I just put it right there at my desk.
And sometimes when we're in school, we don't appreciate the fact that we're learning something. Like I think if I only had time back, my biggest regret is not listening as much. Do you feel that you have maybe the same regret?
I think so too.
Yeah.
I feel like with these cell phones, like they're just distracting, and I get it. Like class is boring, I feel the same way.
Certain classes.
But you got to get through it, Class is class. Cell phones are for after.
Or for actual work.
Or for work. I think you can use them. There's tons of apps, calculator apps, Google Docs. You can work from your phone, but then it gets to a point where you can't see what they're doing on their phone.
All right. Okay, so now the next thing on my list here, we've got security. So I want to talk about security with cell phones and in computers in general. So we moved into a new home. Oh gosh, how long ago was it? Well, you were going into grade 8, and one of my biggest regrets is maybe putting you in the basement. It was great for you. You had that big room.
Had a lot of room.
You had privacy. It was like your own little apartment, and I was so excited for you. But then on the other hand, I had no idea what you were doing as far as going on the computer, what you were looking at, what sites you were going on. And at one point, we knew you were on the computer at 2 a.m. on a school night, so we changed the password. And then you managed to find a way to change it back, and I have no idea how you did that. I think it's because kids are just smarter than us when it comes to technology. But what advice do you have for parents who maybe are going through the same thing? And security.
Yeah, no, I get
computers.
that. I get that feeling, and I feel like kids understand that. Well, the younger they are, they don't understand that they have, because they're not parents yet. They don't understand what it's like to have a kid and be worried about some other human being. So they don't understand like their impact is impacting someone else. So they just do whatever they think is right. And I would say they need a form of protection from an adult because they don't know what the world holds, because there's a lot of stuff going on online that they might not be aware of that might endanger them or their family or something like that. And having that, someone just say, hey, watch what you're doing and watch over them. It's pretty nice, but it can feel, like you're just overbearing on them. And it's that line.
So I think that I had a little bit too much trust in you. And I just thought, well, you know what? He's a smart kid. He'll know better. Do you think I should have had more eyes on you? Do you think I should have been watching you more? And be honest.
Well, I'll be honest. Yes, I do think so. But I feel like that's the thing is we grew up with technology like myself, and we have a better understanding. Like when you're a kid and you learn a language, it's easier for you to pick up 1 or 2 languages as a kid because your brain is just picking up everything. And as you get older and new stuff comes in, it's harder to pick up.
When you're younger, you're more like a sponge.
Exactly.
It's easier to learn.
And so you grow up with this technology and it evolves and you evolve with it. So you get to learn it as it comes out and you just understand how it works. And that's how I was able to get the password over and over. But
yeah, we went through a lot, actually, and looking back, I think I just should have kept an eye on you a little bit more. I should have kept going downstairs, opening the door as much as I wanted to give you privacy, because you'd get upset and you want to be that good parent. You want your kids to like you, but then on the other hand, you are their parent. And so that is the one thing that I might regret. You ended up being okay, but the thing that I was most afraid of was online predators.
Yeah.
So again, I'm going to ask you to be very honest with me when we come back. We're going to take a break. We're going to talk about online predators here on The Parenting Show with my son, Jackson Valentine. Advice from my son on Global News Radio, 640 Toronto. This is The Parenting Show on Global News Radio, 640 Toronto. I'm Jennifer Valentine from Global News Morning. I am just one of the co-hosts. My other co-host, Pina Crispo, is on a beach in Punta Cana. So I invited my son, Jackson, into the studio, and I'm calling this whole show Advice from My Son. And we're getting some great insight into a teenager's life.
Yeah, I think so.
You're 19 now. You're out of high school. And before the break, we were talking about computers, security, keeping your eyes on your kids, cell phones in class. But I wanted to talk about online predators. Again, I'm going to ask you to be extremely honest with me because you were on the computer a lot, and you still are. You
Yeah.
love to game. What is the game that you're playing right now?
I play one called League of Legends. It's
League of
pretty fun.
Legends, yeah. What did you play growing up?
League of Legends and some Minecraft.
You played
stuff like
Minecraft.
that.
I remember Minecraft.
A lot of that. I played that as soon as I got a computer because
You
it's just a
did.
basic game everyone can learn. It's easy. It's fun.
Now, the thing is, you met some people online, and that's the way of the world. We meet people online now, and they might be from other parts of Ontario, other parts of Canada, and other parts of the world. And in fact, I hope I'm okay to say this, one of your very first girlfriends, you met online playing
League of Legends.
League of Legends. And I was a little weary, and I thought, who is this girl you're going to bring home that you met online? She actually was very wonderful, and you are still friends until this day, and I love that.
Yeah, it's awesome.
But let's talk about online predators. Again, please be honest, and tell me, were you ever in a situation that you shouldn't have been in?
I think there were many. No, not like excessive, but I think there were situations where there were people that weren't safe or people that just weren't as friendly as they seem, because it's all over the world, and it's great to make friends because it's just other people you can communicate to, talk to, just hang out with. And there are some really good people online, but there are people with bad intentions, and I see a lot of those. And I've seen some of those where they just take advantage of kids because they don't know any better. They don't know what they're doing. And these adults, they can, everyone's anonymous. That's the main thing, is that you can hide behind a screen.
Or a photo that's not really them.
Exactly. Like, you can steal photos so easily, and it's like catfishing, where you just pretend to be someone else, and it's so easy because you can access all these other people's photos because they have accounts online, and kids don't know any better. Like, there's easy ways to deal with that, where you reverse image search stuff or do certain things, like ask them to take a picture doing something that nobody could take a picture of, like touching their pinky to their ear, because nobody does that. But kids don't know that. They just trust because that's what that's what they think of first. They don't think of enemy, they think of friend.
Because they wouldn't do that themselves. So
Yeah.
they assume that other people, why would other people do that? Why would
Exactly.
there be bad people? So tell me about the situations that you've been in where you've realized, you know what, this isn't the person that they're pretending to be.
Well, I'll talk about one situation. I had a group of people I'd play games with, and these two people, one was okay, she was very nice, but the other guy seemed a little off, and he seemed a lot older than the female, and he was they were together, and he didn't seem stable, where he would, be very jealous of other people, or he would threaten to commit suicide and stuff like that. And she felt helpless because, she didn't want to, because people can make these threats, like, killing themselves or stuff like that. And
It might be real,
it might
but
be real,
it might not be
and
real.
you don't want to assume that it's not, because then if it turns out to be real, all the guilt's on you. So many kids think that it's real, and they say, I'm going to do this unless you do this. And, it doesn't end well, because...
So they're asking you to do something that...
Or they're just...
It could be anything.
Yeah, or they just maybe you're just not treating them well, and they're like, oh, you don't care about me, I'm going to, do this.
Could it be, show me a picture of yourself?
It could be, or it's just
an inappropriate picture?
Just don't talk to these people, or just be in a call with me, don't join your other friends, isolating them from other people.
So this is where predators go.
Yeah.
And they're older, and they're going in to a world where young people are either playing games or in chat rooms, or did you find as time went along you started to realize this? Like, at first you might have been a little bit more naive.
At first, especially with that situation, I was very naive. I didn't understand how it was working. I was very confused. But as it went on, I realized what was going on, and it wasn't. And nothing horrible happened with that situation, but it was difficult to go through because I started to realize things I didn't want to see, or hear about, and it was difficult.
You were learning that on your own.
Yeah.
And for me, as your mom, I'm hearing this for the first time.
Yes, you are.
I'm not completely surprised, but again, I feel like I should have been there. Yeah. But it could have been at a time where it was 1:00 in the morning, or I'm upstairs making dinner or out at work, and you're at home on the computer learning this all by yourself. So advice to parents, how are we going to stop that? Or are we not going to stop it, and we're just going to teach our kids what an online predator might be all about?
I think it is difficult to stop it completely. It's never going to be stopped
because you can't be there 24/7.
You can't. But I think it's very important to teach and learn before those things happen, just in case, even if they never happen, because it's better to be safe than sorry. Where if those situations happen and you aren't you don't even tell them what to expect, they don't know, and they go in with their own thoughts and ideas on a situation, and giving them that heads up might help them out. You never know, and it's good just to do it anyways.
I think so too. Okay, this is very interesting. Advice from my son here on The Parenting Show. Global News Radio 640 Toronto. We'll be back after this. You're listening to The Parenting Show on Global News Radio 640 Toronto. I am your co-host, Jennifer Valentine from Global News Morning. My co-host, Pina Crispo, is in Punta Cana. She's going to be phoning in at the end of the show, but right now I'm here with my son, Jackson Valentine, and we're calling this show today Advice from My Son. And parents are probably listening thinking this is good stuff because, their kids are teenagers. They don't know what they're doing on the computer. But this is good stuff, Jackson. So we talked about online predators. I want to move on to social media in general. So Instagram, Facebook, Snapchat, there's TikTok now. There's so much of it. So let's talk about the pressure of social media and what it's doing to teenagers and insecurities and seeing other people's photos of maybe something that's unattainable when really it could be just a facade, and bringing on depression in teenagers.
Yeah, of course, because it's all about the image that you show, because it's changed from, experiences to how people perceive me. And that's a big thing, is because if you're not active on social media and people, don't see you on their phones or whatever, or on their computers, they don't know what's up with you. It's like you don't even exist to them. But people don't want that. They want to be seen. They want to be heard. They want to leave an image.
I want to talk a little bit about depression because, you know a lot of kids, and I know you're very private. You're not going to tell me, about specific people, but I'm sure you've dealt with that with friends at school, going through a depression.
Well, it's a big issue as well. Yeah. Because people, they're, they want to be, especially with social media, they want to be perceived a certain way. And when they're not, it just feels like their whole world is crumbling. They can't function. It's hard to, it's difficult to talk about too, but that's what's important, is we need to talk about it and keep it, relevant and spoken to, because that's one big thing, is that when we don't talk about it, it's like it doesn't exist. And then when someone brings it up, it's very important, because then we can bring these issues and solve them. Because if we don't know what's happening, if people keep quiet about how they feel and what they're going through and their emotions, then there's no way we can help them.
Do you think there's more depression now amongst teenagers than there ever has been?
I think there is. I think with the evolution of what's going on, I think it's not, helping with the depression. It's definitely, making things, I would say, going into a more depression era. But it's difficult to say, because, people keep it hidden. They don't advertise that they're depressed because again, with that image, people perceive you as depressed. That's how they see you.
They might keep it hidden from a lot of people, but maybe confide in a close friend. Hopefully they do. Do you know anybody who's gone through a depression and felt helpless and like it's almost like...
Yeah. I know a few people that have struggled with that, and it's hard because you're not in their shoes. Especially that's difficult, is you can never put yourself in their shoes and know what they're going through, and you can try to help, and it is important to help, but you'll never know until they tell you what's going on, because you can't get inside their mind. You can't read their mind. You don't know what they're thinking.
Okay, well, hold it there. We're going to have more on that when we come back on The Parenting Show on Global News Radio 640 Toronto. Stay with us. You're listening to The Parenting Show on Global News Radio, 640 Toronto. I'm Jennifer Valentine. My co-host Pina is away, but she will be calling in during the last segment. I am here with my son, Jackson Valentine. Advice from my son. That's what it's all about today. I know the last segment that we did was a little difficult because we were talking about depression, your friends, what teenagers are going through. And that's kind of hard to talk about, isn't it?
It's very difficult, especially when you don't want to focus on specific people, but, people are dealing with this and it's hard to talk about. That's a problem, is that it's hard to talk about.
Teenagers are, a lot of teenagers go through depression and they don't tell people and they don't tell their parents. So what advice do you have for parents? How do you think that parents should talk to their kids to find out if their teenager is doing okay in school and with life in general?
See, yeah, I think that is difficult because a lot of, teens don't want to talk to their parents. They don't feel like a lot of teens don't feel like, they can go to them for these issues. And it's like those are the people that are closest to you and the people that won't judge you for anything that you do. Because you're blood related. Because I know that's a big thing is judging and people judging you. But they're your family, and that's a big thing is I know that parents try to reach out, and it is important that you attempt to reach out at least or make an effort, but you can only go so far. Mm-hmm. And that's what's difficult is that if they're pushing you away, like maybe some people like I have at some points.
Yes, you did push us away, but I never stopped. I never gave up.
No, and that's good, and I like that.
Yeah.
Because you need that because it takes a little bit to just say, you know what, there's nothing I can do and step back, and then you don't have control after that. You don't have any input.
And I hope that you knew, and I think you did, how understanding that we were with absolutely everything. And there's nothing that you couldn't tell us that we would be, we get upset sometimes, but we've always been there for you. And and teenagers go through a lot, whether it's, problems with bullying. The kid they're embarrassed to tell their parents because they think their parents are going to go to the other kid's parents and say something.
Yeah, and then something happens with them and repercussions. And that's awful because, or when you say go to a parent or a teacher and then they hold back, it's like those are the people that are there they're not going to let you go to harm's way. Mm-hmm. They're not going to put you in a situation. Once you tell them that, it's not like you're going to have to face the repercussions of that because you're not, you're more of if you're dealing with bullying or issues with self-esteem, it's like they're going to help you the most and they're not going to bully you in any way with that.
Or sexuality.
Exactly. Something like that.
Teens, if they're dealing with, sexuality and finding out who they really are and they don't want to go to their parents. And I think we talked to you very early and told you we accept you for you, no matter what. So you could come to us. And sometimes you did, and sometimes you didn't. And, but I feel that we were always understanding.
No, I know some big moments that you guys really helped.
Yes.
And I really appreciate that. And it's very nice because I don't know what I would have done without that. Mm-hmm. And it's good to have that, but not everyone has that. And so that's what...
So advice that you would give to parents is to make your teenager feel
wanted,
accepted.
Just be there for them, just
and
talk
feel that
that
they could be open with you.
Just saying anything you say, even if we might get a little sad or, at times not as supportive, we're always going to have your back deep down. And that's very important, I think.
Absolutely. I want to talk about the pressure of the world today, the pressure of getting a job. What are they going to do for the rest of their life?
I still think about that every day because it's difficult to think of finding a job that truly makes you happy because I feel like that's a big issue. And I think when people leave high school, a lot of people, even people that think they know what they want to do, don't know what they want to do. Mm-hmm. And they don't realize that yet. And it's difficult when you get out of high school and it's like, even earlier than that, pick a university, pick a college. What are you going to do? What are you going to apply for? What courses are you going to take? You have to choose up to grade 11, grade 12, what you're going to focus into. If you're going to go math, sciences, maybe more into music or business, you already have to look into those paths. And maybe they don't, directly like maybe when you go into math and science, they're more for university and college because you need those. But when it's other subjects, like you have such a wide variety, and there's so many jobs out there that are coming up. Like jobs are going away and coming back, or new jobs are being created. Like especially with the rise of the internet, like jobs are skyrocketing. They've been growing with the internet as it's been increasing because there's more demand for a job.
So what advice are you going to give to parents on how to handle the pressure of the world with their kids? What can we do for our kids to make it easier?
Well, I would say one thing is that don't rush them. Don't like push them into something. Don't be like, what do you want to do? What do you want to do every day?
I want you to be a lawyer.
Yeah, exactly. Like tell them what they need to do because they might not like it. And then they're stuck in that job that they might not like, even though it might be good for them, like something like a lawyer or doctor or something that they might want.
Might make you a lot of money.
Exactly.
But I hope, and I've given you this advice. I want you to be happy. So I want you to pick the career that's going to make you happy, because when you're happy, you're rich. And and I think you know that. I think we've said that all the way along. But more advice, and something that I really want to talk to you about when we come back on the Parenting Show, Global News Radio 640 Toronto. This is the Parenting Show on Global News Radio 640 Toronto. I'm your host, Jennifer Valentine. My co-host, Pina Crispo, is not here, but she will be calling in at the end of the show. I'm here with my son, Jackson, and he is giving some parents advice on dealing with their teenagers. And this is taking a lot out of you, isn't it? I hear you kind of huffing and puffing over there. Are you okay with everything?
No, I don't talk for this much, so
I know you
it's
don't
quite new. I don't talk at all. This is more than I've talked in a month, so I'm quite shocked.
Listen, I know. But I'm loving this because this is great. I'm finding out so much about you. I'm thinking we should do a radio show
do this every day.
all the time. It's funny. There was just a Saturday Night Live sketch on a podcast, Father and Son podcast. Oh my God. Finding out about each other, because fathers and sons never talk. So they should have their own podcast so they can, bond.
Yeah,
but
I can see that.
I feel we're kind of bonding, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So same time next week?
I'll have to check my schedule.
Exactly. Well, I've been asking you a lot of questions, and we might have to do this again because there's so many things I wanted to get to that we're just not going to get to. But I've asked you advice on everything from cell phone bans to online predators, depression, and now I'm going to talk to you about vaping because vaping is such a huge problem. I don't like it at all. People think, well, I'm going to start vaping and it takes the place of cigarettes and it's much better for me. So they're just breathing it in like they're breathing in air. We know now that it is causing death. Yeah. So I know a lot of your friends are vaping instead of smoking. How do they feel about hearing this news, though, that people are actually dying because of vaping?
Well, a big thing was that we heard the news, because I have many, many friends that do this. Mm-hmm. It's such a common thing. It's almost replaced smoking, I feel like, in my generation, because it's just way more common. It's just more convenient. I go to parties and people go, anybody got a vape? Anybody, and it's like,
what do you share vapes?
Yes.
Yes.
A lot of people share too, and that's a big thing.
Do they have nicotine in them?
Yes. So
because you can just have the flavor, but there's nicotine as well.
You can get no nicotine, but it ranges, and that's the thing is you can get up to limits that are more than cigarettes. You can get past that, and
it's levels.
It goes up different increments. It's you get it in juice. Well, it depends what kind, but a common one is juice, and you put it into the vape, and it comes in different levels. Mm-hmm. So it's milligrams per milliliters. It depends how much is in, but you can go up to, I think a cigarette has about 1 milligram in it. You can go up to 50 grams per milliliter, which is insane.
Okay, so what are your friends saying now? Are they cutting back? Because I've heard that kids who vape are now going, okay, well then I'll just start smoking then.
Yeah, no, people do that too.
Yeah.
People start vaping and they move to smoking because vaping is easier to get into. Mm-hmm. And I feel like that's a big problem, is that it's so easy it's so convenient too. With a cigarette, you have to have, You have to take time. You have to finish the whole thing. Vaping, you can just take a hit whenever you want. It's all electronic. It's in your pocket. You can just pull it out and just take one hit and be done. But you can do that consecutively over a day.
Parents, a lot of parents don't know that their teenager is vaping. What advice do you have for parents on finding out if your kid is vaping and talking to them about it?
I think just sitting them down and discussing. I feel like, they might be... they might not want that, but it's something they definitely need, because I know
they need to hear it.
With the side effects, a lot of people either they did switch, some people may have stopped, but a lot of people, they kind of went in, a lot of people, like people my age, went in knowing some of the side effects because they haven't been proven, but putting something into your lungs like that, obvious, like it wouldn't be good, and people know those effects, but they crave the nicotine because they try it because of the effects it has, and then once you're on, and it's difficult to quit.
So some people are vaping drugs, marijuana.
Yeah.
So you can vape and you can just do it the old-fashioned way, I'm sure, where you roll a joint.
Something like that.
Yeah. So what do you think about drugs being legal in Canada? Do you think it's a good thing?
I like it because I think it gives more... It breaks down that stigma, because I don't think they're as negative as people see them. They can be with overuse because they can be addictive. I know a lot of people say, weed isn't addictive. It can be,
yeah.
Very much. And I think, especially with vaping, weed, before it was, again, with cigarettes, it's very easy, with cigarettes, it's harder to use. You have to smoke a whole cigarette. You can just whip it out of your pocket and smoke, and it's more accessible. So people are using it more often. I know people that go to school while baked or on marijuana, and they...
Did you say
smoke.
People go to school baked?
Baked. Yeah, that's another term. But people go and they take tests and they're in class and they're on this. And I don't think it's for that. I think it helps people, that need it with maybe arthritis or other medical conditions that require it, and recreational outside at the right times. It's very nice, but you have to control that. You have to keep it in the right place at the right time.
So for people that are doing it on a recreational level, do you think that because it's legal now, more people are going to do it? Or do you think it's just kind of the same, whether it was legal or whether it wasn't legal?
I think it is more because it is very more accessible. You just go to a store, rather than getting it any other way. You have to contact anyone or go through that way. But this way it's a lot easier, but you know where you're getting it from. Before, you can be laced with anything.
Right. Yes.
You can get a bag and you don't know what's in it. There's no way of telling until you've already ingested some, and then... you feel the effects.
So now that it's legal, that at least
it's sealed. It's
okay.
Government. I think it's more protected now. It's more safe now.
Mm-hmm. Maybe a little bit more expensive, but because of all those reasons.
With that, but you know what you're getting when you pay for it. You're getting a safer. It's not going to be dangerous or harmful or contain anything that you don't know what's in it.
Thank you, Jackson, for spending this time with me on the radio for the Parenting Show. This really means a lot to me.
Yeah, of course.
And just before we take a break, have I been a good mom?
I think so.
What are you going to say? Thank you so much, Jackson.